Well, officially, good evening. I'm David Shank. I'm the forum producer and one of the founders and one of the board members and a voluntary board member of the Westside Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to our 2018 Candidate Forum. This is our 6th candidate forum in some 8 years that the Chamber has been in existence. We think this is a real major contribution to our community and are a part of our continuing commitment to our community's public service. As I told our candidates earlier, not only do we thank the school district, Wayne Township Community Schools, but we also thank especially the candidates tonight for their deep commitment to public service, whether they win or they lose. The fact that they have made such a commitment to taking their time to provide their feelings on great issues concerning the West Side community, we do indeed thank you. And before we lose everybody, let's give them a hand of applause. I'd like to take a few moments to introduce you to more issues and opportunities about the Westside Chamber of Commerce, and to do that here is our president, Bob Baring, and Bob is also the president of Baring CPA. Bob?
Thank you, and a warm welcome to everyone. Since 2010, the Westside Chamber has been creating connections on the West Side, and with that in mind, it is for one goal, and that is to improve the quality of life on the West Side. Our mission statement is to promote vibrant, sustainable economic development and strengthen the quality of life in Decatur, Pike, and Wayne Townships. We do that by attracting, retaining, and connecting businesses, advocating pro-business public policies, and assisting businesses in actively engaging in the community. And we bring the people and the citizens of all of the West Side footprint together by what we do in our community activities. We take that very seriously. Tonight's forum is one of those community activities. To name some others, our summer job fair at Pike High School in June. We conducted a chamber in the park at the Lions Club Park in Claremont in July. And we have sponsored Westside Women in Business, as well as having a very active junior chamber in both Decatur Central and Ben Davis. And in fact, tonight we have Janet Lavera and Genesis Rodriguez, who are here assisting us. This is their time off and from school on break, and we greatly appreciate their help here this evening. So. Finally, on November the 8th, we have what we consider to be the premier chamber networking event, and that is our 8th anniversary celebration, which will be at the Wyndham West Hotel. One of the other major issues that we have helped the community is to partner with other organizations in an effort to get the bus rapid transit blue line extended from Holt Road out to High School Road, and we're very happy to say that we accomplished that goal. We thank everyone who was a part of that decision. We have a booth out in the lobby. Actually, it's all the way up at the front if you'd like to learn more about the West Side Chamber. One of the things that here at the West Side Chamber we have been very appreciative of is our partnership with the Wayne Township Schools. And they have been very generous with their facilities and their time in this great facility this evening. And to let you know more about that, I want to introduce Principal Sherry Patterson.
Appreciate it a lot. Well, I am the proud principal right here at Chapel Hill 7th and 8th grade center. Did anybody in the room go to Fulton Junior High? Proudly, I love that. Built on a strong foundation, I have to tell you. This is my 44th year at middle school. Can you believe that? I'm still able to stand, keep saliva in my mouth. Here at Chapel Hill, we are just one of 2 7th and 8th grade centers. And we are very proud, Mr. Wilson and I, Dan Wilson and I as principals, to make sure that if you, and when you buy a home in Wayne, when you are in an apartment, wherever you choose to reside in Wayne, that if your 7th and 8th grader is going to school, they get the same excellent education at either school. And we feel very strongly about that. Of course, there is no cure for adolescence, I just thought I'd say. So here at Chapel Hill, I have 1,309 7th and 8th graders. That's a lot of bodies right here, but we are teamed. We take a big school into smaller family units every day, and the students do such a wonderful job. They're 11 to 14 years old. If you remember back when you were, or you had children or grandchildren, you know that they're changing every day. And I always say, these are children that they'll lay their head on your shoulder in church, and that afternoon they do not want to be seen within miles of you because you're so embarrassing. But that's middle school. Here in Wayne, I believe my superintendent is here. Am I accurate? Do I see him? He had to slip away. Thank you. I need you to know that I am very proud to work for a superintendent who is the Indiana State Superintendent of the Year this year, and is now in the running for Superintendent of from Indiana of the United States. That is so exciting. When you see him, you must give him a high five. So as we're here, some of you, lots of things happen on this stage. I probably have 500 students that are in performance music. This stage, I'm proud to say, has hosted many things. This being one of the important ones for us. Citizenship, kind of starts in the school. The other one is the Breakfast with Santa that happens here each December. 2,500 people come. It is so amazing. Has nothing to do with me, but we are proud that this facility hosts so many things for the community. I think that's about what I need to share. I said to David, they didn't come to hear me. And he said, yeah, but you might as well tell them about your school. Thank you, David, I appreciate it.
Well, they actually told her and some of you who I knew are ministers was, you got the time, preach.
That's right.
And you did a good job, thank you.
Right.
As I said, we are being recorded by City Channel 16. You can look at that in a few weeks and take a good look at that. Again, a reminder, we are going Facebook Live, so you can tweet, you can Facebook message all of your supporters, your families, your friends, and tell them to look at Facebook, Westside Chamber, and they can see the activities. We are honored to partner this year with the Indianapolis League of Women Voters, whose President Rhea Kane will moderate our forum. If you're familiar with the League of Women Voters globally, nationally, locally, and regionally, there is probably no organization that has more credibility for being impartial, for running programs that get to tell the story and make it worthwhile for constituents and candidates alike. Rhea lives in Speedway, so she knows the West Side, did not have to rely on GPS to find the school today. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Rhea Kane of the Indianapolis League of Women Voters.
Good evening. Thank you, David, Mr. Baring, and members of the Westside Chamber of Commerce, the viewers, and especially our candidates who are making a commitment to public service by being here this evening. The League of Women Voters is the living legacy of the women's suffrage movement of the United States. Our organization was founded in 1920 in Chicago, and actually the Indianapolis Chamber also was founded in 1920. So we are a very long-lived organization within the city of Indianapolis. Our goal really is voter service and education. We want voters to have all of the information they need to take with them to make informed decisions in the election, in the voting booth. There's a little cartoon that we love, and it says the most powerful place in the country is in the voting booth on election day. And that's when citizens take their power and really put it to good use. So we just ask that you take the time, folks are here, and that's a great sign. Hear what your candidates have to say, make those decisions, and get out there and vote. The most important thing we can do is vote. Indiana has some of the lowest voter turnout in the country, and that was not true that long ago. We used to have outstanding voter turnout. Something has changed. It's not that, people aren't passionate, it's not that people really aren't engaged, but we've got to make that transition to actually getting out on election day and vote. And I'm sure the candidates probably feel the same way. We're going to start, each candidate will have their time up here. The rules of engagement as they are is, each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement followed by, 2 questions prepared by the Westside Chamber of Commerce. They will have 1 minute to respond to that question. If there is a question from the audience, League member Sarah Halter will be towards the back of the auditorium. Flag her down. She will hand you something to write on, and
paper.
she has some paper and a pen, and if you would write down your question, she will get it up to us. So hopefully be quick because turnaround is pretty tight here. But the candidates will also have 1 minute to respond to a question from the floor. If there is no question from the floor, at that point in time, the candidates will round up, do a wrap up, and have 2 minutes to do closing remarks. The segments are timed by league members that are here this evening. The timekeepers will inform candidates when they have 30 and 15 seconds left in their 1 minute questions. For the 2 minute responses, it will be 1 minute, 30 seconds, and 15 seconds. And they are sitting directly in your line of vision. So you'll see brightly colored signs. Look for Dixie in the front row. She will remind you how much time you have left. So with all of that, we are ready to go with our first candidate, who is running for Marion County Clerk. And so it is the incumbent Democrat, Mila Eldridge. Mila, could you please? Now, Mila has a decade of experience in the Marion County Clerk's Office. She is a team leader managing special outreach programs. These programs include Why Vote. It's an initiative for students in Marion County. The Voter Experience Project, which is another form of community outreach, and a program for newly naturalized citizens. At the time that the invitations and everything went out, Ms. Eldridge's opponent did not respond, so he is not here this evening. So, Mila, you have 2 minutes to give the voters a snapshot view about you.
Thank you, Rhea. Before I begin my remarks, I would just like to thank the Westside Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for having me on tonight. I seek re-election because I want to continue the progress that we have made in the clerk's office. We have decreased the amount of time that it takes to fulfill records requests. We have consolidated records storage space for records, and we have smart-sized the clerk's office, saving taxpayers nearly $750,000. I have fought for accessible and easy voting for the voters of Marion County. I will continue to fight for free and accessible voting for Marion County. I am working with the county on moving Marion County to become a vote center county. And all that means is that a voter will be able to go to any polling location on election day and cast their ballot. I am so honored to serve as your Marion County Clerk. And in short, I am asking for your support so that we can continue to move the clerk's office forward. And I thank you for your time, and I encourage all of you to participate in the democracy that serves you and cast your ballot at an early voting location. Thank you.
That's a great start. The first question, the title of county clerk isn't the most exciting. I disagree with that. But why is the clerk's office important to the voters of Marion County? I think you kind of nailed it, but kind of reaffirm. Why is it so important?
Well, because the clerk is responsible for administering the elections. And it's very important that you have someone in that office that cares about democracy just as much as you do to fight on your behalf to make sure that voting is easy and accessible for every voter of Marion County.
And so what are your plans to get more people actually out to vote?
That's a very good question. I'm really excited that for the first time in the history of Marion County, that we will have 6 satellite voting locations beginning on October the 26th. And I would like to add to that, that serving as your Marion County clerk, I promise you that if it makes sense to have more satellite sites on the west side of the city, that I will support that if it makes sense.
Okay. Are there any questions from the floor? No? Okay. So you have 2 minutes to give your closing statement, and then thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rhea. My closing statement is that, again, I just encourage everyone to cast their ballot early. The days for voting on Election Day, those days are over, although you can vote on Election Day if you choose to, but you don't have to wait until November the 6th to cast your ballot. You can cast your ballot early. So I just encourage everyone to tell your family members and your friends, encourage them to get out and vote at the satellite locations. And I do have a few seconds left, and I want to apologize that I do have to leave suddenly because I do have another commitment that started at 7 o'clock that I promised that I would at least show my face at. So please forgive me for leaving so quickly, but feel free to contact me. You can go to my website if you need any information about me. I'm a touchable candidate. You can retouch me and feel me. So again, I just thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Yes, please. As you come up to the stage, please, yeah, there is a cord, so please watch that. Our next candidate is running for State Senate District 29, and that would be the Democratic challenger, Mr. J.D. Ford. Now, J.D. Ford is challenging incumbent Republican Senator Mike Delph. Mr. Ford has an MS of Education from Purdue University from Hammond, a BS of Political Science and Criminal Justice with 2 minors in Conflict Management and Pre-Law from the University of Akron in Ohio. Public service is a family tradition. His grandfather was a city councilman, and his grandmother was city auditor. Senator Delph did not respond to the Ford invitation in time to participate this evening, so Mr. Ford, please give us your 2-minute introduction.
Well, thank you, Rhea. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight. Thank you to the Westside Chamber again for hosting, and also to the Wayne Schools. I'm so honored and humbled to be here as your Democratic candidate running for the State Senate in District 29, which covers Carmel, Zionsville, Pike Township, and Wayne Township, where my home is located. I'm the son of a truck driver, grew up in a very blue-collar household. That upbringing gave me a good sense of what it means for struggling Hoosiers to pay their bills. And I'm also a first-generation college student, so having to navigate through the murky waters of the higher education system, I know what that's like. I'm also a millennial, and so I can provide that perspective when I serve down in the State Senate. For my employment, I've worked on a college campus. I've also worked at the senior leadership level for different nonprofits here in our city, and I'm also doing some substitute teaching just to kind of stay current of what's going on in the classroom. As you mentioned, Rhea, I do have a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science, Criminal Justice, as well as a master's degree from Purdue University, go Boilermakers, in education. So I do want to say that educational policy is really kind of up my alley, and that's one of the things I can also bring when I go to the State Senate. My platform is very easy and simple. It's what I call the 5 E's. So the first one is education, The next one is economy. I'm also wanting to talk a little bit about elections, equality, and the environment. And I believe that those are the 5 E's that will put Indiana back on track. If there are 3 things that I want you to know about me tonight, it's the first one that I'm a champion for constituents. I feel like I'm already doing the job as a state senator, as a citizen, and as a candidate. I'm also a community servant, and I'm also not a hardcore partisan. So thank you so much.
All right. Now, this is the second time you have challenged the incumbent. What are the key issues that you feel distinguish your view of the Senate seat and the people you will be representing compared to Senator Duff's?
Sure. That's a great question. And I would say in 2014, I'm very proud of the work that my volunteer team did. We were able to get so close to a sitting senator. We only lost by 2,000 votes in 2014. And I think it's because we went out and knocked as many doors as we possibly could. We knocked over 40,000 doors going face-to-face with residents of the district. I think this cycle, they don't really tell you what to do when you first run for office in 2014, so I kind of had to figure it out as I go. But this time, I feel that education is very important. My opponent received a letter grade of a D from the Indiana Public Coalition of Education. That's really important. Passing a hate crimes bill is also very important to the people of this district. And I also believe that the environment is very important. And so having someone to shine a big spotlight on that issue is important to me.
So in regards to something you mentioned in your remarks, in the last legislative session, your opponent killed a proposed hate crime bill, leaving Indiana as one of only 5 states in the country without meaningful hate crime laws on the books. What are your views on this legislation, and what would you do differently? And I should note that the study committee that was working, to study this issue, that's what study committees do, they released their information last week and said they could come to no consensus. So.
Yeah, and I want to start there because I think that's what's most concerning to me. Those were lawmakers that we sent to the State House, and they decided to have no action for the 2019 session. And so that's very concerning to me. I think that how we're going to fix that is by sending folks like me to the state Senate who believe that that's an issue for our state. The second thing I would say is that Governor Holcomb has come out and supported a hate crimes bill, an inclusive hate crimes bill. That's really important to know because this is no longer a bipartisan issue. This is an issue that we need to protect Hoosiers and get this done. There was a recent poll that said that 2/3 of Hoosiers believe that we should pass an inclusive hate crimes bill. And this hits Senate District 29 because we had the gentleman who was arrested in Carmel, and he said, I wanted to disrupt the prayer service. That strikes fear into the hearts of the community, and we need to pass it so we can finally close this chapter and not be one of 5 states in the nation that does not have this bill.
Okay, were there any questions from the floor?
We had one, and it was that question.
Okay.
A little bit of trouble hearing you read that.
Okay, I'm trying to. How is that? Is that better? If I could just lean like this? Project. Okay. All right. So because there are no questions from the floor, you have 2 minutes to wrap up.
Great. Well, thank you, Rita. Again, thank you to all of you for coming. I really do appreciate the opportunity to stand before you and explain to you why I believe that I'm the best candidate. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I've walked over 300 miles in our district, talking to residents face-to-face about what is on their hearts and on their minds about this election. I am a true public servant, and that's what I want you to know about me. I am running for the state Senate to make sure that all Hoosiers have a voice in our state Senate. My opponent, unfortunately, who didn't even come tonight, shows you where his interests lie. But I am out here talking with folks and truly want to serve them. I am not afraid to speak out on issues that I believe are important to me and to the people in our district. And again, that's education, that's the economy, that's elections and the quality and the environment. And again, those are the issues that I'm fighting for, and I want to fight for you and for your families. So please be humbled to have your vote on November the 6th. Thank you so much.
Okay, our next candidate is running to potentially represent State District, House District 91, and that would be Mr. Kevin Lineweber. Mr. Lineweber is challenging longtime incumbent Republican Representative Robert Benning. Mr. Benning declined the forum's invitations to participate this evening. Mr. Lineweber attended Indiana University and has a BS in secondary education. I'm guessing a concentration in physics?
Absolutely.
Okay. A Master's of Science in Geoscience and a Master's of Arts in Leadership from the University of Indianapolis, and has done additional graduate work in counseling, energy, mining engineering, and geography, and physics. Wow.
Go science.
I know. So, welcome, and let's give you your 2-minute introduction for the folks watching this evening.
Okay, my name is Kevin Lineweber. I'm running for the 91st District, which is Plainfield, 5 precincts in Wayne, most of Decatur, and a little bit of Perry Township. I've been a science teacher, a coach, and an administrator for over 20 years, as well as being an entrepreneur for a few years. As an educator, I've worked in parochial, private, charter, and mostly public schools in rural, suburban, and urban settings. I'm running because I'm a family man that wants to leave a promising future for generations to come. As an educator, scientist, and parent that fosters to adopt teenagers, I saw a need for change and leadership in Indiana. Indiana's public schools are suffering because of the voucher system, and the entire state is experiencing a teacher shortage due to the insufficient benefits for teachers. Students across our state experience dramatic inequality in services offered, and it just isn't fair for our kids. As a foster parent, I experienced the lack of services, mental and physical health that we're providing for Indiana's kids. Those kids are in the greatest need. Indiana needs compassionate people who believe in human rights to lead the state forward. I'm also worried about Indiana's lack of environmental protection and renewable energy development. I want to see a focus on our infrastructure. I know it's time for me to use my strengths as a leader in our state and bring Hoosiers together. I've spent years educating myself, earning master's degrees, as you were talking about, and I have a strong commitment to continue to make a positive impact on the future of our great state.
Okay, wonderful. Education and the administration of education is a key issue in Indiana. It's been ongoing for as long as I can remember at this point. What can you do to assure continued quality public education within the state of Indiana?
Sure. Well, the first thing that I would like to do for schools in the state is slow things down. We are changing what is happening in the state legislature every year, so schools don't get a chance to come to grips. Administration hires one set of teachers to accomplish one task, and then they have to turn around and hire a different set of teachers the next year. And so they're just not able to keep up. The other thing is the voucher system. The voucher system is draining the dollars from the public schools. And as we do that, we have dramatic inequality. I've been in a school in urban Indianapolis, and I've been in a blue ribbon school this year, and it is not fair what we offer our kids.
Okay. In addition to education, what is the one other most critical issue Hoosiers face, do you think? And what can you do to either bring it to the forefront, or what can you do about it?
Sure. 2 years ago, when I got to the point where I made the decision to run, my wife and I also decided to foster to adopt teenagers. And what we've discovered is the children's services in Indiana doesn't come close to supporting and taking care of our kids. So it is the other big challenge for me is to look at DCS and see how we can actually get the services that our kids deserve and make sure that we are doing the best that we can to help them to be able to be positive members of our society.
Are there any questions from the floor? There are not. Okay, so you have 2 minutes to wrap up your presentation to the audience.
I never thought I would be doing this. I never thought I'd be running for office. I did it because I saw a need, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm a school teacher, and win or lose, I'm going to continue to contribute to our society in the best way that I can. I'm hoping to be able to do that, to be able to change some of the legislation and bring some compassion to our state. I'm for the people, and to be honest with you, I'm running as a Democrat and I have Democratic values, but I am talking to all people in the 91st District because I really believe that I'm there to represent and to listen to all of the people in the 91st District. So please spread the word on my behalf to people that you know that live in the 91st and encourage them to investigate and consider voting for me no matter what party they support. Thank you.
Okay, we're making great time. Moving right along, our next candidate is the Democratic candidate for Marion County Sheriff, and that would be Carrie Forrestal. Mr. Forrestal has a lifelong career in law enforcement, including 40 years with the Marion County Sheriff's Department, rising to Colonel and Chief Deputy. In 2010, he was appointed by President Barack Obama to be the United States Marshal for the Southern District of Indiana. He later returned to the Marion County Sheriff's Office as a Lieutenant Colonel and Executive Director. Republican candidate Brian Durham did not respond to the forum's invitation. So if you'd like to do your introduction for the audience.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know I was going to actually sit next to the principal until I met her tonight. I should have known it when I first sat down. She leaned over and gave me this stern look and said, "Sit up straight." First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Westside Chamber of Commerce for their invitation this evening. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to run for sheriff. I've spent 40 years in law enforcement, and 35 years of that have been with the Sheriff's Department. I began my career in the jail. Spent 4 years working there, spent 5 years patrolling, most of it on the northwest side. I was then promoted to a detective and spent 5 years undercover. I was promoted to sergeant and worked at the grand jury for 4 years while I had a chance to work for Terry Curry. I was then, when I returned, I worked in homicide and robbery. I'm just trying to give you some of what I've done. I didn't just decide, this year I decided to run for sheriff. I was then promoted to lieutenant under each successive sheriff. I had countywide jurisdiction on all property crime, burglary, arson, auto theft. Then when Frank Anderson came in, he chose me as his chief deputy. I spent 7.5 years as his chief deputy, which is the number 2 position in the sheriff's office. I presented the budgets and I oversaw the department. I then was given the opportunity to be United States Marshal, as you mentioned. Spent 5.5 years after being appointed by President Obama. And then returned working for Sheriff John Layton for the last 3 years as the commander of Criminal Division. And I hope you'll remember me in November, and I'll be, again, it's Carrie Forrestal, the one that is here.
Now, I'll say your name, Mr. Forrestal. What role will you play in the overall reduction of crime in Marion County? What is the role of the Sheriff's Department today, do you think, in crime fighting?
Well, there's 2 significant things we do. Is we serve the warrants in Marion County. So it's not only the people that have committed the crimes, but the people that judges have determined are the people we want to bring in. Last year we had a 137% increase on the number of arrests. And that's after I told them to not make so many arrests unless they're safe. That falls under me. And I want to be sure that all the deputies do it safely. As the U.S. Marshal, I was over the United States Task Force for Southern Indiana, which was 60 counties. So I was basically the federal sheriff. That's a dangerous job they do every day. So that's one of the things we'll pull off as the sheriff, is to place those arrests for the people that are already wanted for crimes.
Okay. What are your views on the current jail conditions and then on the construction of the new Justice Center?
The jail is too old. I mean, it's been there before I was there. And it's dark and dank. We're putting people in there. We need to treat them decently. Judges choose whether to hold them there. The sheriff doesn't. But if we're there, we need to treat them fairly and constitutionally. So whether or not we like to spend the $570 million, no, I don't like to spend your money because it's my money too. But I think it needs to be a decent place. And with the council's and the mayor's leadership, that's going to be built. And I'll be ready on January 1st to be able to start working together with them towards that goal.
Okay. Are there any questions from the floor? No? Okay. Well, we have 2 minutes to wrap things up.
Just want to say a little bit about my family. I mean, I've been here 40 years, and I said in law enforcement. I've been married 40 years. So my wife has put up with me for 40 years, and a lot from the last year and a half as I've been running around being a candidate, something I didn't think I was going to be someday. I mean, although I may have done things to prepare to be that person, I was much happier supporting the sheriffs and doing those things, bringing him or her those ideas. But those are things that, as a sheriff, you get to enact. If you say, this is a good idea, and I want to do it, I can get that done. Now, I'm also held responsible for that. So I know that that's one of the important things that every day that I work, it's you're my boss. When I had the job of United States Marshal, my boss was in actually Washington, D.C. I'd see him 2 or 3 times a year. But everybody in here is my boss. So I'll hear from you every day, whether you like or don't like what I'm doing, and I'll be taking those calls to hear how I did. If you vote for me on November 6th, and again, Carrie Forrestal.
Our next candidate is the incumbent Marion County prosecutor, and that is Mr. Terry Curry. Mr. Curry has practiced as a trial lawyer for 40 years in Indiana and federal courts. He was a reporter for the Indianapolis News from 1973 to 1975 and earned a prestigious Casper Award for a series of articles exposing redlining, which is discriminatory lending practices in Marion County. Since taking office in 2011, Mr. Curry has led the office of nearly 400 attorneys and professional support and staff conducting about 40,000 criminal cases each year, including the conviction of former IMPD officer David Bizard and 5 defendants connected to the Richmond Hill explosion. He graduated in 1978 from the Indiana University Law School with the highest honors of summa cum laude. And Mr. Curry, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
As Rhea said, obviously we are completing our second term as Marion County prosecutor. I'm going to talk just briefly about what work in our office looks like on an annual basis, and then talk briefly about a day in our office. I think you said 400 attorneys. We actually have 400 staff, and of that, about 185 are attorneys, deputy prosecutors. We are the equivalent of the 3rd largest law firm in the city. We have an entire office of phenomenal trial attorneys, including my friend Ben Strom, who is a former deputy prosecutor in our office. We collect child support on behalf of custodial parents and their children. We have 52,000 open child support files. We collect approaching $100 million a year on behalf of custodial parents and their children. And I like to share those numbers because as you think about those numbers and extrapolate from that, 52,000 child support files, 30,000 criminal cases, clearly what we do impacts hundreds of thousands of folks in central Indiana every single year. But on a daily basis, we are trying cases every single week in our office. Everyone's familiar with Richmond Hill, which is described as the most complex investigation and prosecution history of Marion County. We convicted all 5 defendants connected with that. But yesterday we completed a trial, 5.5 days of trial involving a triple homicide that occurred last summer, and 2 defendants, the most culpable individuals, were convicted yesterday. Before I came here today, I went and saw a closing argument in a 2-day murder trial. While those cases are going on, our younger attorneys are carrying dozens of files every day to the lower courts to prosecute minor offenses here in Marion County.
Okay. All right. So your first question is, last week, federal and local law enforcement officers arrested dozens of area people for white-collar crime. What is the impact of white-collar crime in Marion County, and what can we do to reduce it?
In my 6 years as a deputy prosecutor, my primary responsibility was prosecuting white-collar crime. And it is certainly not a victimless crime. Not only is there a direct victim, but the ripple effect of what is created by individuals who would take advantage of their friends, their neighbors, and even their own family members is an enormous impact upon those individuals. We have partnered, going back to when I was a deputy prosecutor, I handled dozens and dozens of cases, including when Carrie was assigned to the grand jury, cases that were passed to us by the federal authorities, the FBI, Secret Service. I'm not here to talk about my predecessor, but I believe when we took office, white collar crime had not been a priority. We made it a priority again. As you indicated, we are working jointly with our federal partners, our local partners, to make white collar crime a priority. Among the cases that were described were 2 individuals who had stolen almost $400,000 from the bond bank here in Marion County. It is a high priority for us.
So how would you describe the various relationships between the prosecutor's office, IMPD, and other various community groups? And why are those relationships so important to fighting crime?
Certainly, one of the things that was a priority when we took office was to increase our presence through our community prosecution division. We have prosecutors and paralegals that are assigned in every single IMPD district. And the significance of that is not only to address problems, but to have a face of the office in the community and individuals. We have had several individuals here on the southwest side and northwest side who have made a tremendous impact in addressing quality of life issues in every single neighborhood. And the concept of community prosecution goes hand in hand with community policing. And as IMPD's staffing has gotten back up to the levels it should be, Chief Roach will build upon the community policing concept and continue to develop trust in the community.
Are there any questions from the floor? No? Okay. So you have 2 minutes to wrap up and share your closing remarks with the audience.
Sure. In my opening, I talked about things that are obvious, and in closing, I like to talk about things that are not so obvious and things that we are just as proud of as convicting someone of a homicide or the Richmond Hill case. We have a number of programs that are intended to help individuals get out of the criminal justice system. Individuals who have substance abuse issues, mental health issues, those issues that permeate the criminal justice system. We have been at the forefront for 3 straight legislative sessions and will be again in 2019 in terms of bias crime and advocating that our state, as JD said, join the 45 other states that have such a law on the books. And just briefly, in 2013, the legislature passed what's called the Second Chance Law. And in short, it allowed individuals who had prior arrest or prior convictions to have those sealed if they had passed a certain period of time without being involved in the criminal justice system. Not only did we join those who advocated for it, some of my fellow prosecutors did not. Not only did we support that bill, we helped write the legislation and we've supported it all along. As of today, we've processed 11,500 petitions for individuals who have shown that they are staying out of the criminal justice system and should no longer have that stain of a prior conviction as an impediment to employment, to credit, to housing. About a month and a half ago, we were approached by the New York Times. They wanted to come and interview us, and they did so about our involvement in the Second Chance program. When we asked the reporter, why are you interested in talking to us? He said, as I've researched this subject around the country, people have said, you need to go to Indianapolis and see what they're doing there. And we were featured a week ago Monday in the New York Times. We're exceedingly proud of what we do in the areas that are not obvious to the public.
Thank you very much. Now we get to hear from the Republican challenger, Benjamin Strom. Mr. Strom finds himself in a rather unique position, and he is challenging his old boss, who we just heard from, Terry Curry. He joined the military while in high school and later became a Marion County deputy prosecutor. He rejoined the Indiana National Guard in the Judge Advocate Guard and conducted numerous court martials. He is now the Chief of Operational Law with the 38th Infantry Division in Indianapolis. So if you could give a brief introduction, 2 minutes, to the audience, that would be wonderful.
Great, thanks. First, I want to thank the Westside Chamber of Commerce for hosting this candidate forum, and I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for moderating this, specifically you, Ms. Kane, so thank you. I'd also like to thank all of you sitting out in the audience and those that are joining us on Facebook Live for coming out tonight and taking time out of your busy lives to come and learn about your candidates. I think it's a really important part of this election is to getting out and to know what your candidates are all about. Again, my name is Ben Schramm, as you said, and I'm running as a Republican candidate for Marion County Prosecutor against my old friend and old boss, I should say. He's not old, but good friend, Terry Curry. I was born and raised in Indiana, and as Ms. Kane said, I did join the National Guard 3 days after I turned 17. So I have my life of public service started at a very, very young age. In between my junior and senior year of high school, I did go to basic training. I came back from basic training, and then after high school, I joined the active duty Army, where I served 2 years at Fort Campbell in the 101st, and then 1 year in Korea in the 2nd Infantry Division as an infantryman. After I left the Army, I came to college to Indiana University, where I majored in political science, and then went to law school up in Lansing. I came to Indianapolis after law school, where I worked in the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. And during my 7 years in the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, I prosecuted cases ranging from misdemeanors to murders to major felony drug cases to gang cases. I currently serve as a captain in the Indiana Army National Guard, and I'm also a private attorney in Indianapolis. And so for the last 3 years, I have been practicing criminal law, family law, and I also have a wonderful wife, Liz, who couldn't be here this evening, but we are very excited to announce that we're expecting our first child come January. I am running for Marion County Prosecutor because I believe Marion County is going in the wrong direction when it comes to public safety and the safety of our citizens.
Okay, sorry, I have to cut you off.
All right.
You get 2 more minutes.
Follow it up.
Okay. And you probably can wrap some of it into this first question. So the prosecutor's office isn't responsible for apprehending violent offenders. That's not their job. With that in mind, how can the office reduce the overall crime rate, especially the homicide rate in Indianapolis?
That's a good question. And to follow up and segue into that, one of the things that has surprised me on this campaign, walking around all over this county and knocking on doors and talking to citizens, is they really don't know what the Marion County Prosecutor's Office does. And you know, the prosecutor's office on an hourglass sits right at the neck of criminal justice in Marion County. You have the offenders in the police department and the local law enforcement at the bottom and the court system at the top. And so that puts the Marion County Prosecutor's Office in a very unique position of having the most impact on holding violent criminals accountable for their actions and keeping you and your family safe in Marion County. And how we go about doing that is the way we do business. As a former prosecutor, one of those would be plea agreements. The other issue is the mandatory filing of the habitual offender the habitual offender enhancement statute. A lot of people don't know, but that's equivalent to Indiana's 3 strikes you're out, where if you have 2 prior unrelated felonies, the third one has a little bit more hammer.
Okay. So how would your approach, I think you're getting into this, how would your approach be different than the present administration's?
Well, currently, right now, the habitual offender is not filed in every single case, even when somebody is eligible for that. It's typically filed on the back end of a plea, so if you either take the plea agreement or go to trial, and if you go to trial, it will be automatically filed. The problem, though, is that it's not used enough. And by doing that, you hold those violent criminals accountable for their actions, and then giving them more extended sentences, and so that they get out of the community and keep the rest of the community safe.
Are there any questions from the floor? No. All right, you have 2 minutes to wrap up with the audience with your closing remarks.
Again, as I was starting to go into my opening, and I'm glad I reserved it for the closing, is I'm running for Marion County Prosecutor because I do believe that Marion County is going in the wrong direction when it comes to combating violent criminals. Indianapolis is now the 10th most dangerous city in the country, even though we are the 15th most populous. I am asking for your vote in November to help reverse that direction our community is going and to hold violent criminals accountable for their actions. The other issue about violent crime, and that would be the focus of the administration if I am elected, is that has to be the priority. I know Terry has done a wonderful job when it comes to white-collar crime, but we have a more pressing issue right now in Marion County, and that is the violent criminal that's been allowed to take over our communities. Violent crime in Marion County is not a partisan issue. It is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It is our issue. And it's incumbent upon everybody in this room, everybody at home, to get out on November 6th and make that decision on whether or not you are comfortable with the way Indianapolis and Marion County is going, or if you're ready for a change. So I plan on counting for your vote on November 6th. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on, and we're going to hear from the current Marion County Recorder, and that is Big Kate Sweeney Bell. I'm like, I know who it is. She's a graduate of IUPUI and a recipient of the Sagamore of the Wabash. Sweeney, she has more than 20 years of experience working in public and the private sector. Before being elected to the Recorder's Office, she was the financial supervisor for a Marion County Small Claims Court. She has also served in the offices of Governors Evan Bayh and Frank O'Bannon, worked in the executive office at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and she has owned a small business for more than 10 years. So, Ms. Sweeney Bell, if you would like to give a nice introduction to the audience, you have 2 minutes.
I would. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone being here. This is a wonderful facility, and it is good to be back on the west side. The Recorder's Office, you want to know a little bit about me, but probably first you need to know what the Recorder's Office does, because most people in their lives maybe come in once or twice. The Recorder's Office is basically the librarian for land records. We keep track of who owns what and who owned it when, and our records go back to the 1820s. It is a huge honor for me to be the Marion County Recorder. It is vital to our economy, because if you don't know who owns something, then many of us who have opened small businesses used our homes to get a loan from the bank. And if you can't follow that chain of title, then you can't get any money.
That's important.
Right, something you didn't know maybe.
Okay. All right. So the first question, and you kind of covered it, the Recorder's Office keeps records of citizen stuff, and really more than stuff, citizen property records. Why is that important to West Side citizens?
Well, when this school was being built, what was here before it was a 7th and 8th grade academy?
It was Fulton Junior High.
Fulton Junior High. And before that, it was probably somebody's farm. And when they went to sell that to Wayne Township, well, it was probably a bond, quite frankly, but in order to do that, you need to know who owned it, because can they really sell it? You have to know who keeps those records in order to conduct business.
Okay. So what do you think is the biggest challenge your office will face in the next 3, 5, 10 years? And what is the plan, you think, to meet those challenges?
That is a very interesting question. The biggest challenge is technology. We have, in the Recorder's Office, more than 70% of our documents are filed electronically. That is a jump of at 30% since I took office. And what that means is, as taxpayers, we're able to do more with less. We haven't gotten rid of people, but when people have retired or gone on to new opportunities, we are able to not replace them. And that is good for the bottom line of the taxpayers of Marion County.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience for Ms. Sweeney Bell?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Everybody's shy. So you have 2 minutes to wrap up. So you feel free to share any additional information you would like to with the audience.
Well, as I said when I came up here, it is a great honor to represent you. Public service is a calling that is not to everyone's liking. It is, sometimes you deal with members of the public who are very angry and very upset. And if you don't have the right staff and the right demeanor to acknowledge them, in the very few instances that it happens in the Marion County Recorder's Office, you shouldn't be there. Because as many people who have come up here before have said, I don't represent just the Democrats. I represent everyone in Marion County. And when you call our office or come to our office, let me tell you one thing, real quick. One of the first things I did when I got elected, I got rid of the phone tree. So instead of pressing 1 or pressing 2, you got a person. They answered your call and they answered your question. And it is, yeah. If it drives me nuts, it probably drives everyone else nuts. It would be my honor to continue to serve for another 4 years. Thank you very much, everyone.
And now, the Recorder's Office, there is a challenger candidate, and Republican Paul, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, Ane.
Ane, now that's good.
Ane,
That's very
Ane,
good.
okay.
First time, most people don't get it right.
All right.
It's great to be with you.
All right. Paul is a lifelong resident of the city's South Side. He served as campaign manager to State Senator Aaron Freeman, as well as Perry Township trustee Susie Day. He is a civilian employee of the Marion County Sheriff's Office, where he works with the Judicial Enforcement Division. He belongs to many civic organizations and also sits on various boards throughout the community. Looks like lots of them.
That's okay.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Like a lot of them,
A lot
trust
of
me.
them.
He's very involved, we'll put it that way. He was recently named the Public Information Officer for the Marion County Fair. And if he is elected, he would be excited to serve the community as the next Marion County Recorder. And so you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the folks watching and in the audience.
Well, as she said, and she pronounced it right, my name's Paul Ane, and I'm the Republican candidate for Marion County Recorder. First and foremost, I got to say that I love my current job. I work alongside some of the greatest people that I'll ever know, and that's the men and women of the Marion County Sheriff's Office, and they're wonderful people, and I know Colonel Forrestal would agree with that. And I love the job, and I have a great time working on different campaigns. Senator Freeman, Susie Day, we've won, we're winning, which is exciting, and so I stay really busy. But when it came to me about Marion County Recorder, I was interested. And I said, well, why do I want to be recorder? And I did some research, and I said, I think there's a change needed. Excuse me. I get 2 questions always when I go on the campaign trail. How old are you? Really? I'll tell you that, yeah, I can vote, and yes, if I wanted to, I could sit in the bar section at a restaurant. And 2, what next recorder? Kate touched on that. Well, she explained it well, but my little sister, tell you a quick funny story. She's a senior at Roncalli this year. We were at dinner after slating, and she looks at me out of the blue and says, why are you running for recorder? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she says, you weren't even very good at playing one in middle school. Well, right word, wrong concept. So the recorder's office is very important. I think there are some real clear distinctions between my opponent and I look forward to making that case here before you tonight.
Okay, so right out of the gate, what makes you qualified to serve as the Marion County Recorder?
Well, it's important that you have a staff in the recorder's office, and so when you take a look at running state senate campaigns, that's quite a task. Running a Perry Township trustees race, we had personnel, we had finances, we had many things that you have to do in a recorder's office, so I think that does it. I manage very well with the sheriff's office. I go to many community events. I'm a gruff, so I think I interact well with the community. As you folks being my boss, I'm out with you folks all the time at various different things, so I think I'm very qualified, and I think not only that, I think it's very important that we take politics out of the recorder's office, and so that's my promise, that I will not juggle my time working for the taxpayer versus a political party, which unfortunately my opponent could not say the same.
Okay, so how will you manage the office differently if you are elected?
Well, first and foremost, as I said, I would not juggle my time between the taxpayer versus a political party. I would devote my entire day to the recorder's office. My opponent currently is the head of the Marion County Democrat Party, and I don't think that's right. I think that if you want to serve the taxpayer, you should work fully for the taxpayer. So day one in January, I will work or only the taxpayer. No matter how much they beg me, no matter how much they call me, I will not be the political chair of my party. And secondly, I think there's some real opportunities to improve efficiency in the recorder's office. People who come in have to wait hours in line sometimes. So I want to work with other agencies in the county government to have an opportunity to make those folks experience a little bit quicker and a little bit more accessible. I think there's some real opportunities. I know I got 15 seconds, so I can't get into that.
Okay.
Being respectful.
Perhaps. Are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah. Do you own any property? Have you had
Yes.
any dealings with the recorder's office?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you spent much time in there?
In the recorder's office? No. I mean, you mean have I worked in the recorder's office? The answer would be I have not worked in the recorder's office.
No, I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, do you have a very good concept and grasp of actually what's going on in the recorder's office?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I take the role of running for public office very serious, and my family live in Marion County, so I would not run for an office that I didn't believe that I could maintain and do a good job at. Thank you.
I'm just curious about how much you really know about it. You said people wait in line for hours. You know, it's been probably 6-7 years ago, not under the current administration, but I did work there for several years. And I do own property, and I've seen how much it's changed, and it's
Sure.
pretty streamlined. And I could never recall anyone waiting hours in
Yeah.
line at.
Well, ma'am, I must say that I work in the city county building right now, and I see people who go in the recorder's office every day. And there are instances where they do have to wait in line. There are instances where they go in line and they find out they have to go to another agency. And
Yeah,
they're-
that happens a
and so
lot.
that,
That's
and
not
I,
part of the recorder's
well, ma'am, and I
office.
think that there's an opportunity to work with other agencies, kind of what I would call a one-stop shop type deal, to have an opportunity to speed up everybody's process in all of the agencies. And I've talked with folks that think that that can be done and should be done.
They oftentimes do work together, the auditor, the assessor, and the recorder.
And that's true, but I think that there's more opportunities to improve that, and I look forward to, as your next Marion County Recorder, talking with other agencies to work and improve and be more efficient than we are today. And I think that's a very possible thing. And I talk with people on the campaign trail who may not know much about the Recorder's office, and quite frankly, I think we all think it could be improved more. I think Kate thinks it could be improved more. I'm not bemoaning her for that. I'm just saying that I think that as the next Recorder, there's
Okay.
work to be done. I appreciate the question. Thank you.
All right. All right, our first question from the floor. If you do have a question, if you could flag down, Sarah, so we get an idea of a format of time, because there is supposed to be a timed response to those questions, those answers. That would be helpful. And so now you do get 2 minutes to wrap up and provide sorry, my brain just went completely out. A closing statement to the audience.
Folks, my biggest hero in life is my grandfather. He served as Indianapolis' police chief under Mayor Bill Hudnut. And I look to people like my grandfather and Mayor Hudnut, Dick Lugar, Steve Goldsmith, former recorders like Joni Romero and Wanda Martin. And I saw folks who transformed what was once known as India No Place into India Show Place. And I still want to be that show place. I love my county. My family's been in part of the county ever since we've been established. And it's a great county, but I think it's, as Ben said, heading in the wrong direction. You look at crime, you look at homelessness, you look at mystery budgets, you take a look at many things, and you see the downward trend of our county. And I think that our county needs a change. And I really believe that as the next Marion County Recorder, we can provide some change. And I think that it's very important. Our future's bright. It can be morning again in Marion County, but it takes change. And that change will not occur unless the current leadership is changed. And so I appreciate your vote, and I appreciate talking to you afterwards tonight. If you have any more questions, we had a great question. I appreciate the thought, and I look forward to working as hard as I have up to this point across this county to get to the finish line. And I think that we're going to be very successful, and I appreciate again the Westside Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters, and the Wayne Township Schools for a very beautiful facility hosting us, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Our next candidate is the current Republican incumbent, Wayne Township trustee, Mr. Andy Harris. Mr. Harris has 20 years of experience in township government, including 16 years with the Decatur Township Assessor's Office, where he held positions from Geographical Information Mapping Specialist to Chief Deputy Assessor. He also served the state of Indiana as a continuing education instructor for the statewide Indiana Assessor Conference, a board member of the Indiana Township Association, and is a member of the MSD Metropolitan School District of Wayne Township Strategic Plan guiding coalition. In full disclosure and transparency, it should be known that Mr. Harris is a board member of the Westside Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Harris, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank the Chamber for pulling this here together. We've been doing this for many years, and I think it's very informative to the community, the Facebook community, and Maria, I really appreciate you being here tonight, also taking time out of your busy schedule. I am Andy Harris. I am your Wayne Township trustee, been trustee for 8 years. I was asked by the firefighters to run for trustee. They felt like things were not going in the right direction for the fire department and for the township. And so they came to me and asked me, and after the third time, I jumped on board. The one thing I truly believe is integrity and being honest to the voters and to the residents out in the township. As a township trustee, you oversee a fire department. Fire department of about 191 men and women who serve this community. And you have a trustee's office that helps individuals with emergency assistance. As your township trustee, I'm very engaged in the community, attending every neighborhood meeting that I can possibly can, and I guarantee it's within the hundreds that I've been attending since working for Mayor Ballard. Involved very in the community and the aspect of our local clubs, if it be Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, hearing what's going on in the community.
Okay. Your first question is, you see the township day in and day out, and what issues do you feel like you want to bring to the forefront first?
Well, I think the important thing as a township trustee is not only fire protection, given the best fire protection that you can, but actually being there for individuals that come in for need. We have a lot of people that come in for need, for example, for a burial assistance or rent assistance, if it be paying their electrical bill, food assistance. So I think being that person that if we can't offer that service, where can they get that service? Me and my wife oversee a food pantry, serving over $1,100 a month. And with that food pantry, that when the trustee's office can't legally help, we're able to refer them. So we have a great relationship with different agencies where people can go get those resources.
Okay. How does the trustee's office affect Wayne Township citizens? That's the first, it's a two-part question. And secondly, what can you do to prepare the office to help future generations of folks in Wayne Township?
Well, I think the township office is very open. That's why we're out in the community every night, Monday through Thursday, involved in the community on Saturday, if it be a neighborhood cleanup or whatever it might be. For the future, I mean, there's been comments made about working out with different community centers on having a satellite office for the trustee's office. That's been looked into. We've worked with Hawthorne and Krista Morehouse to see that possibility. And when you look at the cost factor that's involved with that, that didn't work out for those agencies and our agency. So what we do, we go directly to the home. We have a caseworker whenever a resident cannot come into our office. We physically go out there and we get information to help that resident.
Okay. Are there any questions from the floor? You have one. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And just to prepare you, this will be for both of you. So we'll take this as our question from the floor for the challenger as well. What programs are delivered by the trustee's office that are unique to Wayne Township and do not cost the taxpayers any extra? Can you think of?
Well, I think at the end of the day, again, it's having those connections. For example, I had an individual that came into the town. I get many individuals that come into the township that need our help, but they don't qualify. And having those connections with Lions clubs, local churches, to purchase, to pay a person's deposit fee, their late fee, things that the trustee's office, certain things that we can't pay for. So those are
Okay. All right. Well, now you have 2 minutes for a closing statement for the audience of people watching online and at home.
All right. All right. Well, I'm very blessed by the state of Indiana, trustees, Republicans and Democrats, to be named Trustee of the Year, to have the township also be named Township of the Year. We work very hard in our community. very engaged in our community. Very excited, and many of you are not aware of this. We found out on Friday. Many of you might know there's an insurance rating for fire departments. And Indianapolis Fire Department, for example, is a 2. Wayne Township is a 3. Most of your fire departments are 3, or even higher. But in Wayne Township, we're blessed, we're 1. We got the #1 rating, which means your insurance that you pay on your homes will go down. In businesses, this is great for the Westside Chamber. What you pay in insurance is drastically going to go down, so we're very excited about that. And that is because of the hard work of the fire chief and the administration. I know when I became trustee, I talked to the chief, how can we turn around and make things better for our residents and businesses. A couple of things I'd like to also mention. As trustee, I worked with administration to make sure we have air masks for our pets. Only trustee ever to do assisted fire drills in our assisted living facilities. It's very important that our seniors and all our assisted living facilities here in Wayne Township, that they actually know how to come out if there is a fire, and that's shown that works. So very proud of that.
Well, thank you very much. And now we will hear from the challenger, the Democratic challenger for Wayne Township trustee, Mr. Chuck Jones. Mr. Jones took on President Trump and has the picture to prove it. Chuck Jones was president of the United Steelworkers in 1999 and found himself between Carrier Corps and President Trump. Jones publicly questioned the president's employee numbers and met the wrath in the presidential tweet storm. He was chosen as 2017 newsmaker by the Indianapolis Business Journal. Mr. Jones, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the audience and the folks at home.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the Chamber and the League of Women Voters for putting this program on tonight. My name is Chuck Jones. I am a candidate for Wayne Township trustee. Give you a little bit of background about myself. Born in Wayne Township, raised in Wayne Township, attended A.L. Sanders Elementary School in its first year of existence. Went through grade 6 at that facility, then ended up at Ben Davis Junior High, the 7th and 8th grade center at the time over off of High School Road. Attended Ben Davis High School, graduating in 1969. At that point in time, I had worked all my life. I'd started out as a paper boy at age 10, star route, 7 days a week, getting up every morning at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning to deliver papers. Did that for 16 years. Ended up going to Kentucky Fried Chicken. For those who are a little older, it was over there off of Lyndhurst and 10th Street, and worked there for a couple years. And after I graduated, I was making $1.65 an hour, getting 20 hours a weekend. I said, boy, that's not getting it. So ended up going to Link Belt, which ended up being sold a couple times, being Rexnord. Started out after graduating from high school, and get my high school diploma. Started out the grand total of $2.21 an hour. So I worked at Rexnord for 48 years, the last 30 as the steel worker, local 1999 president. So I'm pleased to be here today, and I'll go from there.
Okay. Your first question is, what are the biggest issues you see in Wayne Township, and what can you do to resolve them?
Okay. A couple big issues, as everybody well knows, the drug addiction problem. And I'm working with a group of people, try to get people off drugs that have fell victim to drugs. And it's probably a lot easier if we try to spend a little bit of money on the youth here in Wayne, put them in community centers and try to keep them from getting on drugs before they get on, because it's really a tough deal for these young people to get off drugs once they fall victim to it. So our philosophy is, let's try to put some community centers together so we can help people have activities and maybe they won't fall victim to drugs.
would you say is ultimately the purpose of the trustee's office?
Well, I think the purpose of the trustee's office is to serve the residents in Wayne Township. Right now, out of every 10 people that come in and apply for relief, and I got records to back it up, 9 of them get turned down. Now, we're sitting on 6.5 million in a rainy day fund. People need help, people deserve help, and they want to get help on their.
So this was a question that was asked of the incumbent. What programs could be, we'll say, what programs could be delivered by the trustee's office that are unique to Wayne Township and would not cost the taxpayers any extra funds?
Yeah, I've got a real good connection with a lot of the labor unions, been endorsed by 22 of them, and 23 if you want to count the AFL-CIO. But I've got a good relationship. They're looking for people to get involved in apprenticeship programs, whether it's IBEW or whatever. I feel like that we can work with people, placing them in jobs. If somebody wants to do something along those lines, if not, we can help them get in jobs in other industry.
Okay, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks to the audience and the folks at home.
Okay, first of all, I'm not a politician. I've worked all my life, as I stated earlier. I've fought and worked hard for working class people. I had no intention of getting involved in politics. I got approached about it, and the more I checked into some of the communities, we're taking taxpayers' money, and I don't think it's being spent wisely on a lot of different things that we could be doing better. Now, everybody's paying their fair share of the taxes, but it should be going to the communities to help them. I see people going without. I think that's just wrong, pure and simple. In the fire department, a lot of you aren't aware of this, but the backup vehicle that's pressed into service quite a bit is 24 years old. Now, I don't know about you guys, I wouldn't trust my own vehicle getting me back and forth for 24 years old. But I talked to the fireman that has to drive that vehicle from time to time. It's unsafe. I don't want to see anybody's house or somebody get killed because they are neglecting getting proper equipment in the fire station. Number two, the paramedic vehicle, the EMT vehicle, backup vehicle, it's used quite a bit. 14 years old. God forbid somebody have an emergency and they're relying on a 14-year-old vehicle.
Very much. Our next candidate is the Democratic incumbent of the Wayne Township Small Claims Court, and that would be the Honorable Gerald B. Coleman. And the Honorable Gerald B. Coleman is the judge of the Wayne Township Division of the Marion County Small Claims Court. Small claims courts decide disputes between parties unable to settle their differences and usually involve less than $8,000. It should be noted the Republican candidate Bob Lutz did not respond to the forum's invitation to participate this evening. Judge Coleman, you have 2 minutes to do an introduction.
Thank you very much. It has been my privilege over the past almost 4 years to be your Wayne Township Small Claims Court judge. When I ran for judge the first time, I had a chance to knock on a lot of doors. And the number one thing that I heard from individuals was that they didn't know what to do when they arrived at small claims court. They didn't know how to bring a claim or defend a claim. And so there were 2 goals I had in mind when I ran for judge. One was I wanted to make sure that everyone who came to court had an opportunity to be heard, that they felt like they were heard. The second thing I wanted to do was to educate individuals on how the small claims court works. And we have done that and continue to do that. We created a small claims court litigants manual to explain the small claims court procedures to individuals. We created a information sheet on how to collect your debt. Once you get a judgment, the first question is, what do I do next? Well, we have an information sheet that explains the steps you go through to collect your debt. We also created an information sheet for landlord-tenant rights, explaining the rights to both tenants and landlords and what their rights are. And then for individuals who are actually sued, we created an information sheet that explains to them how they can prepare for their case. And we have seen a real difference with people coming to court better prepared to handle their case. The other thing that we do is after every trial, I explain to individuals exactly why I am deciding the way I am. And so they clearly have an idea of why I decided the way I did. And we think that this allows individuals to leave with some dignity, knowing that I consider their evidence and they understand why I decided the way I did. There's no greater satisfaction in my mind than to know that at the end of the day, I did the right thing and I did what was fair. And so I would like to continue to do it. We are continuing to look at improvements in the small claims court. The small claims court judges meet every month. And with your help in November, I will be able to continue to serve you. I appreciate that.
Your first question. In July, small claims courts officially became courts of record. And so now what that means is the decisions that are made in the small claims court can be appealed to the Indiana Court of Appeals. How will that affect the workings of your court? And more importantly, what impact do you think that will have on Wayne Township citizens coming before you?
All right. Well, it's good and bad. Being a court of record is a good thing. It means everything is recorded, so there's a record of everything. The unfortunate part about the appeal piece is that before, when you appealed directly to the Marion Superior Court, which means you just started all over, and you had a fee of maybe $140. Now, when you actually appeal the case, it's going to cost you $250. In addition to that, you have to pay for a transcript, which can be expensive. So I think the effect on this is going to be that we're going to see less appeals. I think that's, in my view, that's kind of unfortunate because it does make it more difficult for individuals to appeal cases.
The second question, what are the key issues that affect Wayne Township citizens that you see in your court?
All right. The biggest thing is, of course, education. This is why the things I talked about the information sheets and the litigants manual, I think have been very, very helpful. And even in court, I am constantly educating individuals when we have cases. Again, individuals who they'll maybe not have all the facts or maybe don't understand the law, and you don't really expect lay people to understand the law. So I try to take advantage of that situation and explain to them how the law works, so next time they come into my court, they have a better understanding and they can be better prepared. So I think education is the key there.
Are there any questions from the floor, Sarah? No? Okay. Well, you now have 2 minutes to present your closing arguments to the audience.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Small Claims Court is the people's court, and we want to continue to make it people-friendly. Just like I did the first time when I ran for judge, I've been knocking on doors the last few months, and I have a chance to ask the same question I asked when I ran the first time, and that is, I do come across individuals who have been to small claims court while I was sitting as a judge, and I asked them, how is your small claims court experience? And it just warms my heart to hear, well, you were fair. You were fair. I mean, there's nothing more I could ask for, for someone to tell me that I was fair. That's what I would like to continue to be able to do, and with your help in November, I will. Thank you.
Our next office is Wayne Township Constable, and our first candidate is the incumbent Democrat Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly is a graduate of Ben Davis High School and the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, University of Louisville. He's got Northwestern on his transcript, and he is a retired IMPD lieutenant.
First of all, my name's Kevin Joseph Kelly, and I would like to thank you very much, the Westside Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters, Rhea, our moderator, and all of the consumers, the constituents in the audience. Thank you for coming out tonight, taking time out of your busy day. Again, my name is Kevin Kelly. I was born and raised on the west side of Indianapolis also. As far as my education in Wayne Township, let me back up for a second. And one thing I want to interject is my father was a World War II vet, and from an early age, he instilled in me the obligation for public service. So my entire life, I've been engaged in public service as far as helping out in the neighborhood. Some of my early jobs were mowing grass and shoveling snow for neighbors. I was an Indianapolis news carrier myself. I was a Wayne Township volunteer fireman in my early career. And so from then on, Some of the schools that I attended was St. Joe's Catholic Grade School, Westlake Elementary Grade School, Fulton Junior High School, and Ben Davis Senior High School. I attended IUPUI and I studied criminal justice. In 1979, I went to work for the Marion County Sheriff's Department, and like my colleague Kerry Forstall, I followed in his footsteps and had jobs in the jail, the lockup, Wishart Hospital, communications, detectives, where I spent the majority of my career, and I was the commander of the hostage negotiation team and also worked at the grand jury. In 3.5 years ago, I retired from the Sheriff's Department, IMPD, April 1st of 2012, and 3.5 years ago I went to work for the Wayne Township Constable's Office.
Okay. Your first question is, why is the constable important, and what value does it bring to Wayne Township citizens?
Outstanding question, because we get asked that every single day. What does the constable do? Well, the constable is basically the civil sheriff of Wayne Township. It's very important for the constable to work with the trustee and the judge and the court staff, that when somebody comes in, a plaintiff or a defendant that has suffered a wrong, that they do get their day in court. And this is all time effective, that the paperwork is served in an efficient manner. We handle between 9,000 and 10,000 cases a year, basically 1,000 per month. And so both parties have to be notified, this is your day in court. They get their day in court, and that's the constable. Again, a very significant role of the constable is the safety and security of the court, the judge, the staff, the constituents, the consumers that are using the court.
Okay. As the incumbent, you experience the office every day currently. What would you do to improve the operations if you were reelected to this position?
Well, same thing. What we've done, it's a work in progress. On a daily basis, you observe the court, the staff, yourself, and what can you do to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of yourself and the office and the job? Just to give you a couple examples real quick, under safety and security, a couple things we did is we did some construction in the office, and we didn't really build a wall, if you will, but we did install a safety barrier between the office staff and the personnel. It's just like a bank. You still have access. It's open. You can see, you can hear, but I think it did minimize some of the hostility where people would lean across the consumers that were angry would lean across the counter and verbally assault people or threaten, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we also installed a metal detector, a scanner that people go through.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience? No? Okay. So you have 2 minutes for closing remarks to the audience.
Okay. Just to hammer a couple points home real quick. I think it's very important to the constable to take care of those primary responsibilities. I've done it for 3.5 years, and I think I can continue to evaluate myself and improve on my performance and my associates, my staff, and the community, the people we deal with. Again, increase the efficiency and effectiveness. A couple things that I've done above and beyond just work-related is that I'm proud of my community service as well. I'm a volunteer, a fundraiser, and advocate for the Buddy Walk, which is for Down syndrome, for Autism Speaks, Seeds of Hope, which is at St. Joe's Catholic Grade School, the old convent where the nuns live, is called Seeds of Hope. It's a residence for women drug addicts and alcoholics. I've raised money for the paralyzed Wayne Township firefighter on a couple different occasions, and I've raised money for the Claremont Police Department when they were in need of replacing their canine dog. I was involved in that, and I was an advocate for that. Two things that I'm the most proud of, and again, being the commander of the hostage negotiation team, working with emotionally disturbed people, suicidal people. I went to Northwestern University 3 different times for my continuing education. So through VFW post number 1587 there at 10th and Lyndhurst, I was a guide for 2 World War II veterans on Veterans Day so that they could ride in the parade. One of them has since passed away, and the other one is in Carly Macer's residential facility. Second thing that I've done is raise money, again, for the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, for the Post-Trauma Stress Disorder Awareness and Suicide Awareness Walk. I walk in that and I raise money and I do volunteer work.
Okay, wonderful, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are to our last candidate, and that is the challenger for Wayne Township Constable, Republican Doug Sheffel. And Doug Sheffel is the Director of Security for Wayne Township Schools. And just as a reminder, the constable is, as mentioned, the law enforcement for the small claims court and serves as the court's bailiff. You have 2 minutes to do an introduction to the audience.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the Chamber and the League of Women Voters for hosting this public forum tonight. So, again, my name is Doug Sheffel, and I'm the Republican candidate for Wayne Township Constable. Just a little bit about myself. I too am a lifelong resident of Wayne Township. I actually attended this facility when it was Fulton Junior High. It was the 7th and 8th and 9th grade center at that time. But then I went on to graduate. I'm a graduate of Ben Davis High School, and then obtained my associate's degree from Vincennes University in criminal justice. I've been married for 37 years to my loving wife, Larissa, who's in the crowd. I have 2 grown children and a sweet little 7-year-old granddaughter who has me wrapped around her finger. My passion has always been in law enforcement. From high school on, I knew that I wanted to be a police officer. At the time, I was 18 years of age, wasn't old enough to become a police officer. So I went to Vincennes University and continued my education, obtained that associate's degree. I worked at Indiana State Police after coming out of college. I was a civilian employee in their record section. And then once I turned 21, I became a police officer at Speedway Police Department, and then went on to work at the Marion County Sheriff's Department. And then Marion County Sheriff's Department merged with IPD and formed the new Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. Like I said, I've been a police officer for 37 years. I too am a retired lieutenant for my MPD. During my career, I worked as a patrolman. I'll come back to this later, but I've worked in very many facets of law enforcement. I'll explain that here shortly.
Right. Well, your first question is very similar. Why do you think the constable is important, and what value do you see in bringing the residents of Wayne Township?
Well, I think what the value of it is that it makes it easier for the residents of Wayne Township to have a small claims court heard. If you've ever been down to the city-county building, it's becoming more difficult to actually find places to park. You have to pay to park. Then you have to go in. Again, I believe in the metal detecting, though. That's 100% necessary thing that we need to be doing. But it makes township government more efficient and easier for the people that live there.
Okay. And as a former IMPD officer and security director for a large school corporation, what law enforcement issues do you see being relevant, and what will you do as constable to relieve those issues in the court?
Good question. So yes, I'm director of security for Wayne Township School. We have 18 schools and over 16,000 students. And believe me, these children will bring problems to school, so you really have to be attentive to those problems. You have to understand how to deal with them, how to treat the individuals, and treat them with respect. Respect is huge in the community. You have to know how to de-escalate problems, and then I would look to bring those skills to the constable's office in the small claims court.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions? No? Okay. So you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks to the audience.
Well, again, like I said, my experience, I think, speaks for itself. I'm a 37-year veteran police officer. I have 16 years in police management. One of my highlights of my career was I was appointed the commander of the Marion County Sheriff's Department Homicide and Robbery Division. I supervised a group of 17 detectives who were responsible for investigating the most violent crimes in the county. They investigated homicides, aggravated assaults, and robberies. I'm vested in my community. I'm engaged in my community. I attend Chapel Rock Christian Church. I'm part of the security team there, as well as the food ministry team. I host volunteer, and host stands for helping one student to succeed. It's a reading monitor that you work with second and third graders once a week and help develop their reading skills, their comprehension skills. And then I do another program through a preschool that's called Wayne Township Rock and Read. And so what you do, you go into a preschool. Everybody loves police officers at that age, little kids. So you sit in a rocking chair and then you read books to them. And the kids love it. One of the most rewarding things that happen out of my day is to have those kids come up and give you a hug. The big problem is I need for them to get a bigger rocking chair because it's hard to fit with all that police gear on.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That concludes the Westside Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. On behalf of the Indianapolis League of Women Voters, we are grateful for all of you who have come out this evening, all of you who are watching through Facebook or on Channel 16. Please know that the League of Women Voters of Indianapolis is encouraging Marion County residents to actively be a voter. Please visit us on Facebook, on Instagram, and learn about the candidates even more by visiting vote411.org for nonpartisan information regarding the candidates you've seen tonight. They answered questionnaires, and so you have it straight from the candidate's mouth, or fingertips, as typing, if you will. We would really like to thank the candidates for their civil discussion, and most importantly, their commitment to public service by being here this evening and through their candidacy. We would like to thank the interpreters for the deaf, the Ben Davis Jr. Chamber of Commerce members who helped us tonight, the Metropolitan School District of Wayne Township, and especially Ms. Patterson and her staff for the beautiful use of the beautiful Chapel Hill 7th and 8th grade center. And of course, the many volunteers who are here this evening from the Westside Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters of Indianapolis. If you would like to review tonight's presentation, it will be available in the next few days online on the City Channel 16 website, which is nd.gov/egov/channel 16. And of course, it was on Facebook Live through the Westside Chamber's Facebook page, so it will be on their Facebook page for a good long while. We also want to remind you that the Pike Township School Board Candidate Forum presented by the Pike Township Educational Foundation is next Tuesday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. It will be located at Central Elementary School, which is 7001 Zionsville Road. Tonight's candidates will be in the lobby for a few moments for you to chat with them. And you've heard the positions, you've met the people who will affect the lives of all of us living on the west side. Your responsibility now is to take this information and be sure to vote on November 6th or take advantage of early voting at the Marion County Clerk's Office or at various satellite voting locations around the city. Be careful out there, drive carefully, and have a good night. And don't forget to vote. Thank you.